170 of us, so I think we could start. This is an overall session meant to introduce what national human rights institutions are, and thereafter to leave the National Human Rights Commission for tomorrow for some other experts to handle, one of whom I think is already inside here, and to present to you a few examples of national human rights institutions functioning in this country. I have taken the National Commission for Women, the National Commission for Minorities, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, the National Commission for Scheduled Castes, and National Commission for Scheduled Tribes as examples, and I hope I would be able to do that. But before that, once again, a fast revision of what we have already done. And once we finish that, once the understanding of the institution, that will be part one. Part two, I will be going on to what is known as the principles governing the functioning of these institutions, which has been accepted by the United Nations, and it is known as the UN Guiding Principles on National Human Rights Institutions. Third, I will be going on to these examples I pointed out, and fourth, of course, to some activities, very interesting activities. Friends, I will go to now sharing my screen. I will go fast on a few matters that we have already looked at. This is a new terminology. National Human Rights Institutions. Don't call them anything else. Call them National Human Rights Institutions. NHRIs are in short, they are known as NIs. And I'm saying this because many of you are teaching human rights in law schools or universities, etc. NIs or NHRIs. Now, to go fast, what is an NHRI? We have done this, but for the sake of revision, they are institutions created by the government. They are not non-governmental organizations. They are institutions constituted by the government for the protection and promotion of human rights. I will be using very little words so that the learning takes place. They are established by the institution, usually at the national level, for protection and promotion of human rights, and are known as a domestic human rights protection mechanisms. So vis-a-vis international human rights protection mechanisms, these are known as domestic versus international. Now, they are established by the government, and India is a very special example where we don't only have several national human rights institutions, we also have what are called state human rights institutions. This is one thing we need to be proud of. I had sent some materials yesterday. Rajavel, did it go to them, all those PowerPoints and caricatures and all that? Through the facilitators, did it go? Can I have one facilitator? Can I have Saji respond whether it had reached him? Can one facilitator ask for being unmuted and explain to me? Saji?
It reached me, but it didn't go to the participants. Sorry.
I wanted to, that's sick. Can Susai answer whether it went to the participants? Susai?
Yes, sir.
Went to the participants?
No.
Any problem?
No, nothing. No issue, sir.
No, it has to go. That's all, right?
Okay.
It did not go. That's all. No.
Yeah.
If you feel there is a problem of the load, I can understand. That's why I'm asking you. Then okay. Rajavel, can you send all of them together? Rajavel?
Yeah, I'll send it.
Thank you. Thank you. So friends, we've got some lovely material put forth to you, which is in the form of very unique presentations, etc., on national human rights institutions. There were some people asking the serial number is missing. Yes, the serial number is missing because I removed what is not pertaining to national human rights institutions. So don't be worried about the serial number there. You will have some serial number which actually relates to something else, which will have to be given to you another day. So look at that. I'm happy I asked. So look at that. That is important for us to understand what national human rights institutions are. So these institutions are at the national level, as we told you. They focus on human rights. And what is important, friends, in our country, we call them commissions. They take the form of commissions. In some other countries, this is more for information, they take the form of ombudsmen. We don't have too much of this in Asia Pacific region, excepting the case of East Timor. But this is largely, ombudsmen are largely found in countries in Latin America. In some places, they are just an institute. It's very interesting. They are an institute. They are like the German government has a German Institute on Human Rights. The Danish government has a Danish Institute on Human Rights. It's like a research department of a university. They are a Pakka institute. So these are the three levels or pillars within which these institutions work. This I told you yesterday. I'm repeating it fast today. They are not a legislative body. They don't come out with laws. They are not a judicial body. There might be former judges, but they are not a judicial body. They are not an executive body. They are not an NGO. So don't expect them to do what we do in People's Watch. People's Watch is different and National Human Rights Commission is different. And our national human rights institutions are not UN human rights mechanisms. So that is something special. They are hybrid entities. And as we told you yesterday, the international part of their work is compared to the brain. The government with whom they work is compared to the body, and their heart and spirit is compared to what NGOs have. So this is a new type of a body, and that is why it is very difficult for people who are in national human rights institutions or state human rights institutions to understand what their focus are. And very often they think they are still the government. They are not the government. They are a government appointed, but to be an independent entity. This we saw yesterday. The NGOs take 2 steps, NHRIs takes 1 step, and the government takes half a step. As I told you, NGOs are not taking 2 steps these days. Half their legs are broken, so they hop, and take perhaps 1 step at a time. That is the speed of the NGOs has been reversed by government's handling of it. Now, there are certain principles that govern the functioning of these institutions. We are getting into those principles, trying to understand those principles. I will go a little fast here. I think I mentioned this yesterday. As it's mentioned there, it was drafted in the year 1991 and accepted in the year 1993. They are the principle of independence. Friends, try to understand what I'm saying. They're supposed to be independent, autonomous, and therefore able to stand on their own legs. They have to be, in their composition, they have to be plural. They have literally to be plural, and that's very important that they exhibit this pluralism in their composition. And this is definitely a must. They are supposed to be competent. They are supposed to be inclusive of a variety of people brought into their composition. They have to be competent people. It has to be an accessible commission. People should be able to access, and it should be a commission with effectiveness. These are international standards. This is the common brush with which the UN would like to see, the common perspective with which, the spectrum within which the UN would like to see these national human rights institutions being established. Now, this is what they do. They monitor and document. human rights. They advise the government. So if you want to evaluate a national human rights institution, you should be able to see how much they have powers to advise the government. Do they advise the government or go to sleep? The remedy, they have to provide remedies. They have to deal with harmonization of laws in their country so that these laws are harmonized in tune with international standards on different subjects. They have to cooperate with the UN, recommend ratification of various international standards. They have to undertake education as well as research. These are some of the mandates that these institutions actually follow. This is also something that we spoke of yesterday. They handle complaints. Therefore, they have hearings or investigations of cases. They issue recommendations publicly. They consult with relevant government bodies, and they cooperate with NGOs. These are supposed to be their functions as we know them. This I've already told you, the national commissions, the various different types of bodies we have. Now we will go a little more into these principles and understand these principles. And why we get into these principles is only then you will be able to appreciate how the actual commissions in the country, they have to be independent. And they have to function, therefore, without interference from any branch of the government. Which means they have to be independent of a branch of the government. They have to be independent of a ministry in the government. And then you will see later what is the actual reality. And conduct their day-to-day functions without interference. How much of their day-to-day function these commissions are able to carry out without the interference of the government on a day-to-day basis, we will be able to see very soon. In terms of independence, they should have financial autonomy. If you don't give them financial autonomy and expect them to be independent, how will they be independent? I remember once I went to a women's commission chairperson in Tamil Nadu. Not the one who's going to come and speak to you, but the person who succeeded her. And she said, Henry, I need some money for a program because we don't have resources. I said, okay, ma'am, we will try to provide. Just send me a bank account. What, Henry? You're asking me for a bank account. Our commission doesn't have a bank account. We get funds directly from the government. Imagine what kind of independence would that commission have, which doesn't have a bank account of its own. Not even a bank account. So financial autonomy, the source of funding should be specified in the founding legislation. The budget of the institution should not be linked to the budget of a department of the government. Financial autonomy to include continuing funding. Now this is important. You remember yesterday when we spoke about the National Legal Services Authority, I intervened to say that I was a member of the Tamil Nadu Legal Services Board. I was a member of that society, and once a year you go for an annual general body meeting. And when I was a law school student, I felt very proud to enter the Raj Bhavan as a member of the Free Legal Aid Board. And there was the governor, I think the governor was the patron then. And then the whole discussion, as I told you, was that there were no funds for the next year. The governor said, what? But then they said, why? And then politely people were saying, because we are doing cases against the government in cases of custodial debts, etc. And then it was sorted out. So if you lock your funds, the independence goes. So that is financial autonomy. The third, I'm going a little fast, permit me to go fast, is about appointment and dismissal. Now, only when you have powers of appointment and dismissal can you be independent. If your college cannot appoint anybody and somebody from outside only appoints your college staff, what will the management be interested in running your college about? So appointment of members is important. Dismissal of members is, everybody knows that your principal can never dismiss you. Who's going to bother? Or your vice chancellor is not going to dismiss you. Nobody's going to be bothered. Or your registrar cannot take any action against you. Nobody is going to be bothered. So that institution should be independent. They should have appointment and dismissal procedures, methods of appointment, criteria of appointment, duration of appointment, etc., etc., etc. The same appointment and dismissal procedures. And then defined jurisdiction and adequate powers. This is the second Paris principle. Their jurisdictions should be very, very clearly explained. There should not be any vagueness. The third, that institution should be accessible. And what is accessible? People should be able to easily reach it. Only if you know about the institution will you reach it. How many colleges have a compulsory program where they introduce, not among you, I'm talking generally. You might be some institutions which are which are different, and therefore you are also here. So the question is not to you. If every college, it is made compulsory that every college should have a foundation course on human rights, where the Protection of Human Rights Act, the Commission of Women's Act, the Commission of Minorities Act, the Commission of Protection of the Rights of the Child, etc., are taught to them, then there is an awareness of the institution. Only when I know where Potish is, that Potish has come to my city, then will I go to the Potish shop, like the advertisement. So awareness of the institution is very important for me to access the institution. And physically accessible. Don't keep it far away from town. Keep it in a place which people can easily access. And only if I have representation of people who belong to what I belong to, what I see in that commission, will I go. If you have a women's commission with all men sitting there, will the women of this country be excited? Don't laugh at me. There were times when the Tamil Nadu State Commission for Women had a chairperson who was a judge, a male judge. And the male judge was very proud that he could protect women's rights better than any women could do. That's what every man thinks. And that is what we are all fighting. And therefore, you should have representation of women. You don't have token representation of women. You should have actual representation of women. So all this is, and in this course, don't forget, we have 60% women participating. So which is a little more than 60% at the end participating. So accessibility is very important. Then you go to awareness of the institution, as I told you. I will not get into that. Physical accessibility, what it means, etc. Then the principle of cooperation with NGOs, with cooperation between national institutions. The NHRC should cooperate with the National Commission for Women, should cooperate with the National Commission for Children, should cooperate with the National Commission for Scheduled Castes, Scheduled Types, etc. So don't think they should all remain in simple island. They should cooperate with other national human rights institutions, and they should cooperate with intergovernmental organizations which are present in our respective countries. They should be operationally efficient and then also be accountable. So these are the principles, these tasks I've already told you yesterday. These commissions, yesterday I explained to you. You have the National Human Rights Commission, which is under the Protection of Human Rights Act. You will see that tomorrow, but you will see, now I don't know whether what I'm doing is right, but I am. So you see this. You see this National Commission, Scheduled State Human Rights Commission, District Human Rights Court. You don't have that. Do you see this? Then you see the National Commission for Women, no connection. National Commission for Minorities, no connection. National Commission for Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes, actually no commission. Then you have National Commission for Savai Karmachari, no commission. The commission that next has connection is the National Commission for Protection of the Rights of the Child. You will come to see that later. So all our national level commissions are there. State level commissions are here. And at the district level, you are supposed to have a district human rights court, which is here, which is non-functional. I think Maya made reference to this the other day. Now we come to the first commission. I will finish one commission, and then I'll take questions. I think I've done 20 minutes by now. Am I right, Matthew? Matthew?
Yes, Henry.
You want questions afterwards? Any questions are there?
Rajwell is doing the questions.
Rajwell?
No questions, sir.
Thank you. Now, first we are doing the National Commission for Women. Friends, I will be doing this a little more in detail so that the basis is clear. And once the basis is clear, then the others will go fast. In every commission, we will try to see the year it was established. So 1990. This is 1990. And tomorrow you will come to see that the National Human Rights Commission was constituted in the year 1993. So when the National Human Rights Commission was constituted, the National Commission for Women was already there. Remember this. Same way the National Commission for Minorities was established in the year 1992, it was already there. So, constitution by the central government. How many members? Chairperson, whose qualifications are very nice. Committed to the cause of women. Any woman can be committed to the cause of women, no? See how general it is. Now, these generalities will have problems because then when you appoint members, you will have difficulties if you have generalities like this. 5 members nominated by the central government. And from among persons, the qualities are here of ability, integrity, standing. Now, you have to really understand what is ability. You have to really understand what is integrity. You have to really understand what is standing. Who have experience in law or legislation, trade unionism. So you can even have a trade unionist who is appointed as a member. Management of an industry or organization, committed to increasing the employment potential of women. Women's voluntary organization, women activists, administration, economic development, health, education, or social welfare. So these are chairperson, 5 members. These are the qualities. Provided that at least 1 member from each shall be among persons belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe respectively. So friends, what is important is I go back, look at these qualifications. This is appointed by the government. So what is usually done is this is appointed by the government with no consultation process at all. Now I'm coming to business. No consultation process. The appointment doesn't talk about an appointment committee. The appointment doesn't talk about special criteria excepting these broad criteria which is there. The appointment doesn't say you will call for applications. The applications will be uploaded. People like you and me can know nothing. This is private business by the government in power, whether it is a Congress government, whether it is the BJP government. We are not getting into politics. We're looking at the structure. So they can appoint any number of people whom they want as a member of the commission. And usually what is done is the persons who are appointed are persons who could not be given some seats in election. People could not be given some seats in election. I'll come to one commission later. I'll come to this commission itself. There was a chairperson here who resigned from the commission, went and stood for elections in a particular state, lost the election, then came back and assumed power as chairperson. All these have happened here. You have another commission where there was a member of parliament who was appointed as a chairperson because he could not be given a berth to become a minister. So this is berth-seeking positions, unless we are able to get people of passion. Now you will say, sir, you're always criticizing, sir. Can you give some models? I'll give you 2 exemplary people. One was Mohini Giri. Dr. Mohini Giri, who was the chairperson at a particular point of time. She has come. Many people here might have heard her name. Otherwise, Google and find out. I won't get into explaining because of the time factor. But when Gundupatti in Tamil Nadu, up in Kodaikanal, Dalits were beaten up by the police. I want to tell you all, we called her. And then she says, why are you calling me? I am only a women's commission chairperson. Why don't you call somebody from the NHRC? I did not know this lady, but I knew that I knew her by reputation. I wrote back to her and I said, Madam, I am calling you because you are a woman. And if you feel you cannot come because you are a woman, then I will accept that. I knew if I say that, she would find it difficult. She's a very, very respectful person, very close friend after that. She came and she conducted the inquiry in Dindigul. And she had the SP standing there in front. And I was standing outside the room because I had nothing to do with the inquiry. The inquiry is the commission's inquiry. I was not a member of the commission. So I said I didn't want to embarrass anybody over that. And suddenly she started looking out and said, where is Henry? So the police objected and said, no, if he is here, we will not depose. So she said, what did you say? He is the person who gave us the complaint. And therefore, he is the complainant. We are here because he has given the complainant. I will not only ask him to come here, I will ask him to come and sit next to me. You want to appear, he was Mr. Dorairaj. I'm sure he's retired by now. Dorairaj almost dirtied his pants, to be polite to him. That was the shivering he got after that. That was Moini Giri. Moini Giri did wonderful work during her period. I'll give you another example of Purnima Advani, who succeeded Moini Giri. Dr. Purnima Advani, a medical doctor and a lawyer. Terror. She came to Tamil Nadu. She had a joint, and I would leave it to Dr. Vasanthi Devi to talk a little more about it when she comes. Just to say, there were members, there were chairpersons who were exemplary people, before whom we also had to behave, where we ought to be professional. Today we talk with ease about them, but when they were in position, we had to give them that respect and ensure that we did our homework. There was no nonsense with them. We had to complete our homework with them. So there were people, and there are people in our country. So it is not to say we don't have women in our country of that caliber. We have plenty of women of caliber in this country. The problem is those women are never appointed. That's the point I'm making. So there'll be a member secretary. So usually these commissions have a chairperson, members, and member secretary. The member secretary is usually an IAS officer. Very interesting. Sometimes in these commissions, you don't have IAS appointed, but they select a particular service. I don't know whether it's happening wantonly. IFS are appointed. Now, IFS, many of you will think it is Indian Foreign Service. I basically would not mind if it was Indian Foreign Service. It is Indian Forest Service. So many people who have IFS are not allowed to get into and look into Ministry of Forests, etc., because Ministry of Forests, etc., have to be looked after by industries today. So where do you keep these fellows? Keep these women or men who have finished IFS, push them into Women's Commissioner, put them into Children's Commissioner, put them into some of these commissions. So that is the member secretary, who will be an expert in the field of management, blah, 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 who is an officer or a member of the civil. It has always been a member of the civil service in the case of Women's Commission. Going a little fast, the terms of office, all these commissions in their act tell them whether they are 4 years or 3 years. Here it is not exceeding 3 years, and etc., etc. Then you get into how will they be removed. Their removal procedures are also in the act. You can read it in detail. What are their functions? Now, this is where it is important. Please look at the functions. They have to investigate and examine all matters relating to safeguards. Look at the language. The language will continue the same. Relating to safeguards provided for women under the Constitution. They have to present to the central government annually reports. So they have to report in writing to the government. They have reports, recommendations have to be there in the reports. They have to review provisions of law affecting women and recommend amendments. They have to take up cases. Friends, look at this. Take up cases of violation of provisions of the Constitution and other laws relating to women. Look into complaints or suo motu notice of matters. I think yesterday we made reference to what suo motu notice is. So on their own, they don't need to wait for something to happen. If the National Commission for Women knows that something has happened to one woman or a group of women or a class of women or a category of women in the state of Arunachal Pradesh, without a complaint coming from Arunachal Pradesh or Kanyakumari or Pune or Bhubaneswar, they will take up the complaint saying suo motu on their own, and they will proceed on behalf of the so-called victims with that particular inquiry. Relating to deprivation of women's rights, non-implementation of laws, non-compliance of policy decisions. Professors, follow this very carefully. This is why I'm going into these functions, because all this will have research money available to you. That's why I'm asking you to look at this. Non-compliance of policy decisions, guidelines or instructions, call for special studies or investigation to special problems, etc. Undertake promotional educational research. That's why I brought your attention to this. They have to take up research and they have to promote research. That doesn't mean the chairperson does the research. That means the chairperson accepts research proposals from Chandigarh University. Accepts research proposal from one professor, one student who used to be in Manonmani and Sundarlar University as a journalism student and is now working with the Tangavel in Coimbatore. He or she is, I think, is an audience here. Now, if he wants to do research, he can also do a research on how Dalit women are affected in that area of Coimbatore where Virudugal Tangavel is working. Or Anuradha, as a journalist, wants to take up a particular research, she can apply to the National Commission for Women and apply for research. I'm purposely putting all these names inside so that you know it is meant for you. It is not meant for some other jack sitting there. Lady Doe College, you have a women's studies department. Your women's studies department by now should have got funding for research undertaken by Lady Doe College. Not the department alone, anybody in Lady Doe College. It can be a chemistry professor, it can be a social science professor, it can be a history professor on some of these matters with funds provided by the National Commission for Women. This is what I want to make you understand. This is very important for academics and students. Now, a student of Bharatidasan University in social work, who's also participating somewhere here, he wants to do a study on women. He can or she can apply to the commission. Participate and advise on the planning process, evaluate progress or development of women, inspect or cause to be inspected. Look at this. Now, if you know that there is a women's home run by the government where there is a scandal going on, a student of second year social work or first year social work of Lady Doe College, who's a participant here, has come to know that in a home meant for women, there is a scandal going on. Madam, here, the National Commission for Women has a right, duty to inspect or cause to be inspected a jail, a remand home, a women's institution, or other place of custody where women are kept as prisoners or otherwise. So they can be there for other purposes and not be treated properly. They're supposed to fund litigation. Look at this. Fund litigation. You may belong to a women's group which wants to fight a particular issue. Yesterday I had a call from a very, very, very respectable woman from who used to work for many years with the World Council of Churches. World Council of Churches, a very respectable lady. I don't want to use her name here. When I was a student in college, she was in an institution in Bangalore and Whitefield, where she was offering us a small stipend where we could go for a month and do studies with books in their library. And if the book that I wanted for my research was not there, I just had to write to her. Now I think I should mention her name also. Aruna Jagadish. Aruna, Aruna. I'm not getting her family name correct, but Aruna is her name. Wonderful woman. I went there and spent a month. I sent her a list of books. The books were there, and from morning till night we were in that institution, which is known as the Ecumenical Christian Center, where we did studies. So like that here, if you want to do funding a litigation, if there is a group of women who want to, and she wanted to do a litigation. That's why she called me. She has a group, she wanted to do litigation. Unfortunately, I had to be a little true and honest with her. And my advice may not have been very interesting to her because she was thinking that Krishna here is still alive. I think she was thinking that Bhagavati was still alive. It is not so. The concept of public interest litigation itself is under challenge. And there are not too many judges who are willing to also participate in public interest litigation on subjects as a non-adversarial jurisprudential exercise. So unfortunately, NCW can fund litigation involving issues affecting large body of women. Keep this in mind. Keep this in mind to suggest. And to try as a group of women from a particular college, as a group of teachers from a particular college, and if it's a women's college, much better. You want to initiate a public interest litigation, work for 6 months and do this. This is the greatest service that you can do to the country. Your litigation will be funded by the NCW. Funded by the NCW. Make periodical reports to the government and any other matter. So I took a little time here because I will not be taking time in other commissions. They have powers. They have all city civil court powers. They have a civil court powers while they are examining complaints. So if they have to summon somebody, if they have to examine a witness, etc., they've got all the powers of a civil court to be doing that. So I'm skipping this so that you can read. Finances. Friends, look at this. Now, this is where you should understand what independence means. The central government shall, after due appropriation made by Parliament, by law, pay to the Commission by way of grants as the central government might think for utilizes for the purpose. So this is completely depending on the ultimate decision that the government will make as passed by Parliament. Now, this is where the whole concept of the independence, the financial independence of these institutions goes. So the institution cannot undertake too much of work because it has to be passed by Parliament. And then therefore, because it has to be passed by Parliament, for the Women's Commission, I think it goes through the Ministry of Women and Child Welfare. It passes through them as well. And only through them, the budget is passed through Parliament. So their budget is held by the Ministry of Women and Child Welfare as a part of their ministry. And it is the ministry's funds which ultimately come to the Women's Commission. Annual report, this is very important. This is also going to be an activity, so follow me carefully. Every commission has to provide annual reports. This is mandatory. This is part of the statute. And the annual report, together with a memorandum of action taken by the government of the recommendations given to them. And if they have not accepted, reasons for non-acceptance should be presented before each House of Parliament. Each House of Parliament. Friends, look at this. And you'll have to see when the report was published, when it was presented in the Parliament, and how many questions were raised when this report was presented in Parliament. So this is the National Commission for Women. I've looked at composition, appointment, functions, powers, finances, and I've looked at reports. I've not gone to something else. I will. Before I stop, I will take you to. Are you able to see this? No? Are you able to see this?
Yes, yes.
Okay. This is the National Commission for Women website. Friends, just one or two websites I will go. There are lots of information in these websites. That is why I'm bringing you here. I'm not going to look at everything. Look at Internship 2020. They have a portion on internship. Students, you are here, they have an internship. And this commission has two types of internship. One of which is paid. They have a portion on registering complaints. You can go there and register complaints. And they have a panel of legal counsels who are available. Now, I'm looking at the internship part. You saw this? Scheme A, Scheme B. And the Scheme B is paid. Online applications for students. So for students who are interested, please look for, if you work for more than 60 days, you are paid an, what do they call that? They call it, I think there's some, honorarium. They pay an honorarium. So it's important that you know that honorariums are paid in the internship to the NCW, National Commission for Women. Now look below, they have their publications. All people who are working on women's rights, a number of materials are here. Their complaints you can make through online complaints. Or the list of laws related to women are here, etc., etc. It's a very engaging website. At the moment, we have decided not to look at the criticisms. And if you ask me for criticism, I'll come into the question and answer side, but this is what the National Commission for Women is. I finished about 35 minutes. Are there any questions?
Nothing specific. Maybe you can carry on. And then we can take.
Oh my goodness. Are people decided not to ask questions, or I cannot imagine that they understood everything. That story I won't say. Or Rajavel, are you very seriously scrutinizing and saying there are very embarrassing questions and therefore you're not asking? No, you won't do that. I know you won't do that. Friends, another thing that you should look into these commissions is, and I will remind you about the RTI, because you have all studied the RTI. Every commission should help you know how to find details for filing an RTI. See here, the suo motu disclosure made by the commission is here. The manuals are here. The RTI officers of the commission are here. For all those who never had made proper RTI questions, here is the Women's Commission where you can still file an RTI question. Who are the officers? This is the information officer. Here is the appellate officer, the first appellate authority. Okay. This is about this is about complaints, and these are other matters, and this is the first complaint authority, first appellate authority. So the details of the officer and their emails are given for you to send online RTI petitions. Every commission has its details of RTI authorities on the commission. That is a must, and it is there. So you need to know it is there. Okay, friends, we did one commission. We will now go to the National Commission for Minorities, established in the year 1992. I will go a little fast. Constitution, a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and 5 members. You'll have these kind of slight changes. This is the commission which has a vice chairperson also. They have to satisfy the number of people from the minority community. So they have a vice chairperson and 5 members to be nominated amongst persons of eminence. This word is beautiful, no? Eminence. Who's eminent? I don't know, but eminence, ability. What ability? We don't know. And integrity. Integrity, we all understand. We don't want it to be integrity, meaning our integrity is to the ruling party of the country. No, it should be to the constitution of this country. It should be to the constitution of this country, not to the ruling party of this country. 5 members, including the chairman, shall be among the minority communities, drawn from the community. And their term, 3 years. So more or less you will see, friends, that this 3 years business is continuing. There used to be one with 5 years. They have also brought it to 3 years. The 3 years is more or less coming as a common trend, but I want you to see it. That's why I'm bringing here. Now I'm taking you to the composition. The composition is quite interesting in this commission, and therefore I'm taking you there. I don't think I do these things very well, but let me try. Yeah. Now it does have a, oh my goodness. Suddenly it's not found. Yes. Not bad. I got it. Can you see it? Can you all see it?
Yeah.
Raju?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, fine.
Now you see, friends, this is the chairperson. The people should belong to different minorities. So here is a Sikh member. I don't know where to get my pen. pen. And it doesn't matter. I hope you can see. This member is a Sikh member, the vice chairperson. This member, Sunil Jivraj Singh, is a Jain. You have this Madam Sulekha Kumbare, is a Buddhist. Shri Vada Dasturji Khurshid Kaikobad Dastur is a Parsi. Another gentleman is a Muslim, and the Christian at the moment is vacant. Just to point out to you, see the minority commission has people from different minorities represented in the commission. So that is what is important. That is why I brought you here. And now we'll go back to our slides. Again, functions. Look at the functions. Now we can go a little fast. Evaluate the progress made in relation to development of minorities as envisioned in our constitution, blah, blah. Monitor the working of the safeguards provided in the constitution. Make recommendations to the government on matters relating to safeguard for the protection of the interests of minorities by the central government or the state governments. Look into specific complaints. Friends, by now you will see complaints handling is a must. Research is a must. Reporting on the safeguards and the effectiveness of the safeguards of that particular community, group, sector in the constitution is a must. These are all usual things that are continuing in every commission. And then you have cause studies to be undertaken, conduct research and analysis, suggest appropriate measures, periodic and special reports, and any other matter. The language slightly changes, but the content doesn't change. We've seen Women's Commission, now we've seen the Minority Commission. Grants, same language. Annual report, same language. Also annually to be presented to the Parliament with what is called any such recommendations, reasons for non-acceptance of the recommendations, a memorandum of action. These are all things that should be contained in the annual report. They have a power of civil court also when you are handling complaints. Just as the Women's Commission had powers, they also have powers. So Minority Commission. Now the National Women's Commission, please note, National Women's Commission and the National Minority Commission are only national commissions established under the National Commission for Women Act of 1990 and the National Commission for Minorities Act of 1992. Both these commissions do not have, both these legislations which constitute the National Commission do not have legal provisions to allow for the constitution of state commissions. But sir, Saji will say, I have a commission, state commission for women in Kerala. Margaret will say, I have a state commission for women in Karnataka. Raleigh will say, we have a state commission for women in Madhya Pradesh. Krishnakant will say, we have a commission in Gujarat. And Pradipta will say, if I don't say Orissa, he will get offended. Therefore, Pradipta will say, we have got one commission in Orissa, Odisha. All these are independent state commissions established by the respective state governments under specific state laws passed in their state legislatures. Keep this in mind. Every state commission has an independent, every state commission for women is established by the state legislature. Similarly for minorities. So minority commissions are established. Yes, this very same states I mentioned also have minority commissions, but established by a state legislation passed by the state legislature, which is for that particular state. Slight modification, but more or less the essence is here. What are the three roles? Advisory, always. Awareness, always. Complaints handling, always. These are usually there. These are usually there in different words. Now we come to a third commission, friends, which is the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights established in the year 2005.
Sorry,
Yes?
there were questions pouring in. Can we take a few now?
Let me take one or two questions, but make sure I don't take more than 5 minutes on that.
Oh,
You will have to control me, brother. I am uncontrollable.
sure.
And you will love controlling me. Please do.
Definitely. The first one is, what's the difference between courts and commissions? What can they, what are the powers that they hold, the commissions especially? whether they can terminate any government servants or contempt. They can. That's one. And the second one is, what reforms do you suggest to make the commissions more independent in its functioning, and also how to make them financially independent?
Done.
That's two.
Anything else?
Yeah.
The second question I'll take an adjournment.
Okay.
I'm a good lawyer, so I'll take adjournments so that we look at a few more commissions and then come to reforms.
Okay.
If we start talking about reforms in the beginning, then it will not make sense. But a very good question. I'm very happy about the question. Just that, like a good lawyer, I'll take an adjournment. We'll always like to take adjournments. The first question. Sorry, sir. Sorry, Rajwin. One more.
Yeah. About appointments, basically political appointments in commissions.
Yeah.
So the question was directly about one commission. Why are only political members of a party taken and appointed to National Minorities Commission?
Yeah. Okay. Today we are talking about women, minorities, children, etc. So I'm in a very good plane. Tomorrow there will be a very, very experienced gentleman who's a registrar of a Jindal Law School who's coming, who will talk about the National Human Rights Commission. You keep don't think political appointments are only made in these commissions. They're also made in that commission. I'll push that question there, but I will definitely answer that question here. Now, courts versus commissions. Very good question. So very clear, this is, what do courts give us? I'll put it in simple language. Courts give us judgments. You go to a district court, you get a judgment. You go to a municipal court, you get a judgment. You go to the High Court, you have a judgment. You go to the Supreme Court, you have a judgment. Courts give us judgments. I'm not saying justice, I'm saying judgments. Judgments. National commissions are not courts. And therefore, they cannot give us judgments. So you want a court order, go to a court. National commissions in our country and in other countries can provide you recommendations. And the recommendations of a national commission or a state commission later are to be taken seriously by that commission. Now, supposing we'll have the state of Madhya Pradesh in mind. Raleigh is working with a group of women there, and she works with the State Commission for Women in Madhya Pradesh, and the State Commission for Women in Madhya Pradesh has taken up for very special study based on the work that Raleigh is doing in Madhya Pradesh on transgender persons in Madhya Pradesh. This is an example. Huh? I'm not saying Raleigh is doing this. I'm not saying the Women's Commission in Madhya Pradesh is doing it. It's an example. Now, because of the work that has been done, and they conducted a public hearing in the city of Bhopal on the issue of transgender, and opened the eyes of the chairperson and members of the National Commission for Women to the problems of transgender persons in the state of Madhya Pradesh. They were convinced. There are all these 20 cases that they saw in a public hearing, and I hope you understand what a public hearing is, a hearing that is conducted by the commissions in public. They examine victims, they understand the problem, they had their findings, and they had their recommendations to the government of Madhya Pradesh. And one of the recommendations, therefore, was 1, 2, 3, 4. The government of Madhya Pradesh has to do all this, has to present this report in the Legislative Assembly of Madhya Pradesh. If need be, pass a law so that the rights of transgender persons in Madhya Pradesh is protected, employment is assured, vacancies are filled, blah, 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 blah. Now, this is something that can take place through a commission. New issues relating to these thematic areas are areas that can be looked at by these commissions. There can be issues. Now, for example, a gross violation of human rights has taken up relating to women in Tamil Nadu. And we understand that Karnataka, wait a minute, Karnataka. And Sikram, an organization which my good friend Margaret is the present director, tries to see and is able to see that the government is trying to cover up that issue. Because it was somebody from the ruling regime in the government of, nobody knows who's ruling in Karnataka at any point of time. So I'm making a general comment. Don't think I'm choosing states based on some political affiliation. No. And therefore, Margaret says, no, I'm not going to leave this. I'm going to complain to the National Commission for Women on this matter. National Commission for Women comes there, examines this report and comes up with a version. So you are able to get an independent version of a professional body, of a reputed body, of a national human rights institution speaking on that issue. Now that is the advantage of the recommendation that come out of such commissions. But then you should have people who are independent there. And then I come to the second question which was asked. Most of them are political appointees. The persons who appoint them also don't know that these are the functions of these commissions. The problem is not only that the government, the elected representatives don't know. The IAS officers sitting there also themselves have never done their homework on what these commissions are supposed to do. Because they never want these commissions to be independent. And if you don't want a commission to be independent, then the best is to have somebody who's dependent on you to be appointed as a member there. Tomorrow, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I think, when Dr. Vasanthi Devi is here, you ask her how she was appointed, she will tell you. Please note the question. These are all leakages. I hope she's not sitting in the audience saying, Henry, what is this? You are already leaking out all the most important questions. Now, Vasanthi Devi, madam, cannot be pulled by the one government or the other government. She's a very independent woman leader of this country. She was appointed to the commission. Ask her those questions because it's much better it comes from people who have held positions. So political appointees should be avoided. But political appointees, I also want to be honest. Matthew, Rajavel, myself, we have all, together with a few other colleagues who are here, I may not immediately be able to remember who they are. Adani, who's here, and a few others. This Parasharji, who's also here. Asirvadam, who's here. Done a program for chairpersons and members of state human rights institutions together. Friends, it was our first experience. It was actually the first experience was in Jindal Law School. And YSR Murthy and the Vice Chancellor, who will also be here with you on the 27th, Vice Chancellor Dr. C. Rajkumar, and a professor from Harvard University is also going to address you on the 27th. So in their college, and suddenly we found some person coming for the program. I called Rajwell. I said, who's this person coming here? There are two gunmen with that person. Gunmen mean policemen with guns coming for a training program that People's Watch was organizing. I don't know whether the guns were against us or somebody else in lighter tone. Huh? So they went and inquired, and then they came and said, sir, gunman is for the chairperson, sir. Which chairperson? The state chairperson. Now, if the commission is wrong, please correct me. If the state is wrong, please correct me, Rajavel. The chairperson of the State Commission for Abolition of Manual Scavenging in Uttarakhand. I hope Uttarakhand is the correct place I'm saying. Rajavel, Matthew?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right. Now imagine the work that a chairperson is supposed to do is to abolish carrying shit in your hands, manual scavenging. That task is so difficult, so that the chairperson has to be provided with a gunman. So slowly, I think it was Matthew who tried to perhaps talk to this. I don't know to whom they talked, but the next day, I don't know whether they talked. Next day, once this commission chairperson understood what his powers were, what his functions were, he then realized that this gunman and all this is stupid. Next day, he told the gunman, stay in the car and never come here. I'm feeling ashamed that you are coming here because all the others don't have gunmen. But friends, to be honest to them, to be very honest to them, we had these kind of symposia in different parts of the country. Most of them on day 2 morning were different personalities. Friend, I know the one who has asked me a very, very serious question. They are political appointees. Of course, we are human beings. No? We also have political understandings. And I will be very, very open. I had a particular person from a particular state ruled by a particular government, and I was colored. That color was thrown away by the women who came from that particular state. Thrown away to the winds. Because on the second day, they came up with so many questions. And although I didn't follow Hindi very carefully, my translations were being provided to me saying they realized for the first time that they had all these statutory powers. Even in the state of Tamil Nadu, the chairperson of the Tamil Nadu Commission for Women, prior to the person who just retired now, who finished her term and retired now, demitted office now, the earlier person was, everybody knows, belonging to the AIADMK. She was a public speaker. And if you know what a public speaker in Tamil Nadu is, I leave it to your imagination. She was a very powerful speaker. I will leave it at that. For respect of the person in public. I was with her in the training program. Matthew was also there. And she did attend the sessions. Now, usually these people come for the inaugural session, and then after they have 15 people who will come to take them out, not because they have to attend to 15 people, but they escape from session. This respectful lady, we might have 102 criticisms about her, but to be honest to her, she stayed and then privately told me, sir, we never knew there was so much work. Nobody has told us this. That is the problem. So where do we have to fight? We have to fight the whole question of appointment, make it transparent. If a vice chancellor of a university is appointed, it is transparent. Applications are called for. Why should the National Commission for Child Rights chairperson not be called for? Let 500 people apply. Yeah? What's your problem? Have a transparent process by which the best among them come out. We want an independent commission with independent chairperson with criteria that are developed to be appointed. So that is the way out for appointments and to ensure that I've also answered the reform process. And that is why in India, we have instituted what is called, note it down, AINNI. It is called INI, the All India Network of NGOs and individuals working with national and state human rights institutions. Because we believe that the government is not investing on these people. And we are always criticizing these people. But we have to find a way out. And when you find a way out, there is a way out. It is definitely a way out. Friends, I can talk about the Tamil Nadu State Commission for Children. They're all zeros today. Everybody is out. So we can easily talk. The chairperson was an IAS officer. I also said all these IAS officers should not continue to be appointed as chairpersons and all that. Finished here. You finish your career, go home, rest. Not, you are still tired. You're not tired. Don't go rest at home. If you start loafing, you'll get corona. Don't come and pollute all these commissions. Enough here. 60 years, 65 years, you have worked. Go retire. Why do you come back and chairperson of this commission? These people appoint because if EPS in Tamil Nadu appoints, OPS will object. If some OPS nominates somebody, EPS will object. So my chief secretary is very, very safe. He says, why should EPS be affected, OPS be affected? Their unity is very important for somebody else in this country. Therefore, we will ask an IAS officer to be appointed. That IAS officer was appointed. Now, I have no problem with the IAS officer. My point is, IAS officer cannot be a chairperson. IAS officers have never been independent chairpersons, and this lady was never knowing what the full powers of this SCPCR was. So she was always subject to the Secretary of Women and Child Welfare in Tamil Nadu. Now they've all gone. There was a member there. That member came to our training program of INI in Goa. I remember, Matthew will remember that person. Now suddenly on the Facebook of that person, I saw something related to Hindu religion and all sorts of things. I said, hold on. This gentleman is my member still. So I immediately in one WhatsApp group said, I'm quite surprised that I find somebody who's expressing some very special opinions here. Most probably this is because his term in the SCPCR is coming to an end and he's looking forward to a berth in the NCPCR. Mind you, friends, it was immediately withdrawn and said, I did a wrong cut and paste. This is not mine. This is somebody else. I had put it on my Facebook. I'm sorry. So friends, we have to be vigilant. We have to be polite, but we have to be vigilant. We also have to be vigilant. And vigilant means saying the correct things at the correct place. Not because of politeness, keeping quiet. So if some people, say Henry is aggressive, unfortunately, in these matters, you have to be aggressive because you are aggressive on public agenda. I'll move on. National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Composition. Again, National Commission comes in 2005. The earlier two commissions we saw was 1990, 1992. See, the language by 2005 was slightly improved. Slightly. Chairperson was an eminence and has done outstanding work for promoting welfare of children. Again, we had a person of eminence, but with that it was over. And that person of eminence is going to come to you. The first founding chairperson of the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, Dr. Shanta Sinha, will be in your midst tomorrow afternoon. A professor, an activist. For 30 years in her life, she had worked with children, and not working with children sitting before a computer, working with children out on the street. 30 years, and she was a professor in the university. Now do you understand why I'm going on putting pressure? I want all professors to be like that. I'm giving you models. Vasanthi Devi, I'm giving you a model. Shanta, I'm giving you a model. And there are many more. Well, I gave you a model of Dr. Purnima Advani. These are all people whom we admire. So never think that because we are critical, we don't admire good people. We not only admire with them, we love them for our entire life. If today we have a regime of child rights protection under the JJ Act in this country, this lady whom you are going to see tomorrow, Dr. Shanta Sinha, together with many others, did protests on the streets of our country for the JJ Act to come in place, the JCBs to be created, the CWCs to be created, etc., etc., etc. I was doing a public hearing. I was doing a fact-finding in Tirupur. Yeah, Tirupur, for an NGO person who had been falsely implicated in a case. And then we had to go and it was led by Shanta Sinha. Dr. Shanta Sinha was leading the team. And I was assisting her because we had established the team. But there were lots of very respectable people. And we went to meet this young man who happened to be the chairperson of the I think he was a district child protection officer. If I remember well, he was a student of Loyola College. He told me all this. And he sat like a big officer there, not bothered about Shanta. I don't think he ever have heard his name, Shanta Sinha, anywhere in his life. I said, this man has to be taught a lesson. At one point of time, I got up. And then in my typical style, I said, do you know who's here? This respectable lady is the one who has given you this job. Because this kind of positions were never created for children, for protection of children in this country, till people like her, led by people like her, protested and got it. Then the man understood who was there, and then he started realizing. He took a phone, started talking to people. I started following him on the phone. I said, you do your work here. She's come to ask you questions. You answer, you answer. You don't have an answer, say, sorry, madam, I don't have an answer. Don't go and talk to the next higher officer. Get the reply from them and pass it on the phone here. These things are not done here. Otherwise, we will go with we are a civil society organization. Then the man calmed down and he said, sir, I know you, sir. I'm a student of Loyola, sir. I said, you're a student of anything, I'm not bothered. I want you to be a good human being. And if you're a good human being, I will also be a good human being. And then we went on. Now that is, so we have had people of caliber, extreme caliber, professional, humane. Sometimes we used to, I worked with her as an NGO person and she as the chairperson, and wondered why is she so respectable to the policemen. And she had her reasons. And I think I learned it from her. So there are extraordinary people. You don't need IAS officers in this country, and you don't need men always. Please let us get all these things clear. You have extraordinary human beings who are humane, passionate, who know the law, who know how to implement the law, and they have dirtied their hands to lead commissions like this. So that is the chairperson. 6 members. Now there are some qualifications given here who the members should be, and it will be very interesting for you to find out, to look at this will be one of your activities which you will get tomorrow morning. If you get it today, you'll be angry with me, so you'll get it tomorrow morning. Look at the 6 present members and see what is their specialty in education or child health, welfare or child development, juvenile justice, elimination of child labor, children in distress, child psychology, sociology, etc., etc. Many people think if you attended a webinar on child psychology, tomorrow you can apply to the State Commission for Children. Mind you, there are people who are asking me, who came for our public lecture by Usha. Believe me, the phone calls. Yes, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. Very good. Sir, for attending that day's webinar, is there a certificate? I said, sorry, it was a special favor shown to you, but what will you do with that certificate? No, sir, I propose to apply for some of these commissions and I can give them a certificate that I have participated in these kind of courses. Believe me, 3 phone calls. 3 phone calls. We had a State Human Rights Commission member in Tamil Nadu. I'll stop with the stories, otherwise we'll go on stories. So these are the members who are appointed. Appointment, same. Slightly better here, there is a selection committee. For the first time you see this bad word here. You have a selection committee. Chairmanship, minister in charge. Who are the members? You will find all the secretaries are there. Now, what kind of a selection committee is that? For that, you need not have had a selection committee. But in this particular case, because the matters went to court, there is also a court direction of the Supreme Court of how the selection of the NCPCR should be done, etc., etc. Terms of office, age restrictions, all this are here. We go next. Functions. Look at the functions. Once again, same word, safeguards for children, reports annually, inquire into violations of child rights, examine matters affected by rights of child affected by terrorism, communal violence, riots, natural disaster, domestic violence, HIV/AIDS, trafficking, maltreatment, torture of children, exploitation, pornography, prostitution, and recommend remedial measures. So this is something that they are supposed to do. If I have time later, I'll go into what we did with the NCPCR in terms of public hearing, but I'll leave it at that. Look into matters relating to children in need of special care, study treaties and other international. Once again, academics, all this is your area. Undertake and promote research in the field of child rights, spread child literacy, child rights literacy through media, rights, etc., etc. Inspect institutions, custodial institutions where children are kept. They're supposed to inspect. Inquire into complaints or take suo motu notice of matters relating to violation of child rights and other functions that are assigned. So you see, functions are there. Now, the first time you are now coming with a commission which has a state commission inside the Commission of Protection of Child Rights. So you have not only the National Commission, you have a state commission, and therefore under one law, you have a national commission created and a state commission created, contrary to what we saw for women and what we saw for minorities. This is very important. This is a major change. State commission should have same 6 members, same, all the other things will be similar. All the other things will be similar. Same functions. Only if you have an oral exam tomorrow, then people will read this again, I think. But there's no other go. You have to ensure that we see several commissions, how they are. Now, extraordinarily, the Act also provides for a children's court separately. Not the POCSO courts, the children's courts. Some states have constituted children's courts also. Now, NCPCR and the SCPCR have two very, very special functions. Those who are sleeping till now, wake up. Under the RTE Act, which is the Right to Education Act, and under the POCSO Act, which you know of, the NCPCR and the SCPCR, in addition to all the functions mentioned so far, have the additional function of monitoring the RTE Act. They have to monitor and the functioning of the POCSO Act in the state and at the national level. Friends, I'll just tell you one small story and I'll move. This body, which is supposed to monitor the RTE Act in Tamil Nadu, the SCPCR in Tamil Nadu, about which I spoke now, has a chairperson, fine, who was a retired IAS officer, so she was getting a pension. Plus, I think in addition to the pension, she was getting a solid sum of money here. I don't want to get into the money and belittle that person or vulgarize the money that was given to her. I don't mean to do that. The chairperson is separate. The members of the commission, 6 members of the commission, friends, were paid 1,000 rupees a month for every monthly sitting that they sat. Imagine they were there for 3 years. There are some of them who are my good friends for years together. I have, now I can mention their names. You know. I had Chella Selvakumar, who from Erode district, who was a member, who is an NGO activist. Everybody knows him. He was on that commission. Ask him how he felt when he was paid 1,000 rupees. When they were there in the commission, they always used to say, sir, we were there doing honorary work. I appreciate your honorary work. I value your honorary work. I have no problem. I respect you for that. But I don't want you to do honorary work. I want you to do work with dignity. My Kerala colleague in the State Commission for Children is paid 80,000 rupees a month. 80. Why should my members in Tamil Nadu be paid 12,000 rupees a year? My good friend Shankar of Empower in Tuticorin, his wife Meera Shankar, very respectful lady. I'm not talking about people's competences, but if they are competent, then pay them well, yeah? Only then they will be independent. You understand what I'm saying? They will be independent. This lady, Meera, came out with a report in Tuticorin about almost 30 minor children who were kept in illegal detention after 22nd of May 2018. I want to appreciate her publicly. She came out with a report with all the names. Mind you, that report was a secret report. She submitted that report, but that report was never made public, and the government never took any action based on that report. We came to know about that report only when we saw it published in the annual report, and that annual report reached us. And I think even there, by mistake, I think it figured there. Otherwise, they would have removed it from there. So what I'm saying is, these people, if they are paid well, respected well, and their dignity is respected, then of course, they will work up. Now imagine somebody monitoring the RTE Act in Tamil Nadu and paid like this. What respect will the Secretary of Education have for you? Friends, I was under Dr. Shanta's tenure. I was what she called us, or she nominated us as the state representative. By mistake, in my ID card or the appointment order, by mistake, it was typed special representative. Anyhow, it was a state representative. We were supposed to be voluntary, honorary, no salary. And I insisted. We were like special rapporteurs. Special rapporteurs are called for their expertise. So we said no. And I was given the task of visiting schools. All of us, sorry, not all of us. And that, I can tell you, friend, that was the best part of my human rights life. I visited almost 500 schools in Tamil Nadu, not one of them on the state highway or national highway. And I learned how right to education is a human right by visiting these schools. I have stories to tell you on that. But what is important is, at that time, the State Secretary for School Education, it was Sabita Madam, IAS. We had a very respectful relationship. because she knew I was a state representative. All our reports used to be taken seriously. We used to do public hearings in every district, where the CEO and the DEO and the AEO and the AAEO, all of them, the very complicated system they used to have, still have, used to stand in front of us in relation to very specific complaints of abuse of RT Act. So this is something very special that the SCPCR and the NCPCR have to monitor the RT Act and the SCPCR Act. But they should have a special secretariat, fully funded with professionals to be able to do this work. Then you can have the art. But if you have a government which is not interested in the RT Act, and a government which is not interested in the POCSO with all the litigations pending in the courts, then the National Commission for Children and the State Commission for Children cannot do anything. So this is something very special which other commissions don't have, this commission has. They have come out with a number of manuals, operating procedures, guidelines, etc. I will not go into that. You can read it. I'm going to pass this on to you. And then we have the National Commission for Scheduled Castes, which is more or less the same, and Scheduled Tribes, which is also more or less the same. Now, what is important is that both the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes commissions are the only commission in this country which are constitutional bodies. The NHRC is not mentioned in the Constitution. The commission is not mentioned. The Women's Commission is not a constitutional body. The Minority Commission not a constitutional body. All the others, no. These two alone were in the Constitution under Article 338 of the Constitution. The Commission for Scheduled Castes was formed. And in 2004, the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes was also brought into the thing, and the Commission for National Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes was bifurcated with two separate commissions, one for Scheduled Castes, one for Scheduled Tribes. Now, both of them are national bodies, which have functions which are similar, so I'm not getting into it. Appointments similar. But the State Commission has offices in the following places covering the following districts. So, if somebody is there from Northeast, watch. Tripura, you have it in Agartala. You have one office in Ahmedabad, Krishnakant, which looks after Gujarat, Rajasthan, Daman and Dadra, Nagar Haveli. All these are, and UTs are being looked after by them. Karnataka, Margaret, only Karnataka. The one in Chennai looks after Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu. The one in Bihar looks after, Patna looks after Bihar and Jharkhand. The one in Thiruvananthapuram looks after Kerala and Lakshadweep. The one in Kolkata looks after West Bengal, Orissa, Sikkim, Andaman and Nicobar Island. Chandigarh looks after Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, and Chandigarh. Now, it will be 2 union territories there. Like this. These are offices of the commission with the directorates here. They are not state commission, they are directorates here. This is the operational difference between the other commissions and this commission. They're similarly for the State Commission for Scheduled Tribes. I will stop here. What I have not done, I will tell you. I have not done the State National Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities, the National Commissioner for Safai Karmacharis, and the Central Information Commission. You can read up. I mean, the pattern is established here. These are all established by government. They've got functions. They've got civil court powers. They've got a term, and they've got to report to the House of Parliament. And in the House of Parliament, recommendations are also given. Yes, I will take questions here.
Yeah. So there are 2 questions. One is regarding whether the commissions need any complaint to act on any human rights violation, or they can intervene in any issues that is human rights issues that are going on. And the next is regarding the recommendatory nature of the orders of these commissions and the legality about it, whether the government need to follow it or not.
Yeah. On the complaints, I think tomorrow you're going to have a 45-minute of what complaints handling is by Mr. Parashar. And I don't want to take the wind off his sails. I only want to tell you there are different ways by which all these commissions handle complaints. You can be the affected party. Dani can be the affected party. Dani, nothing should happen to you. You're only an example here. or Asirvadam can be the affected party. They themselves are affected by a violation which these commissions are supposed to look after. So they themselves can be the complainant, one. Asirvadam is working in a company and he is very scared to talk about the human rights violation taking place there. He says, sir, if I do that, they'll throw me out and then I will not have any employment after that. You will come and tell me about my rights and go. Don't think Asirvadam alone will say that. Even professors in college will say, sir, all violations, sir. Yes, sir, but you don't go and tell here and there, sir. My job will go, sir. They'll throw me out of Chandigarh University, sir. They'll throw me out of Kerala University, sir. They'll throw me out of Madurai Kamaraj University, sir. So there are times when these victims cannot speak for very genuine reasons. And somebody else can speak on their behalf of one person or a group of people. That's the second category. The third category is Asirvadam cannot speak, but his wife is speaking on behalf of Asirvadam. Immediate family, relatives, father, mother, wife, husband. And the fourth category is there is no public interest, but there is a member who is very active. And the member reads something in the newspaper and says, atrocious, this should not have taken place. Therefore, the member of the commission takes suo moto somebody is sending me from Jharkhand a note that Patna is not for Bihar and Jharkhand. Jharkhand has a different office in Ranchi. Ranchi is the central office for Jharkhand, not Patna. I can understand that I have touched on very, very sensitive issues, but Jharkhand is a separate state, separated from Bihar. So if I had mentioned some mistake there, I ask pardon, because I know the sensitivities of saying Jharkhand and Bihar have office in Patna. It is not true. It seems they have a separate office. Maybe what you are saying is right. If I'm wrong, I apologize for that. I'm sure you must be correct. Then I see Aruna Jnanadasan. Thank you, Saji. Yes, that Aruna that I spoke of was Aruna Jnanadasan. Long time ago that I forgot to. Yeah. Okay. Very good. For a long time I didn't look at chat, but chat really distracts you. What were they saying? What were they answering? Rajvel, I stopped somewhere. Complaints, yes. Suo moto. So the suo moto complaint is nobody comes forward with a complaint. We see lakhs of people walking across the road. People being killed in the trains. No courts are taking up. Human Rights Commission should suo moto come forward and take the complaint. That is suo moto complaints. On their own, without a complainant being there, on behalf of the victims, come forward with a complaint. So these are the 4 ways by which complaints can be taken up in these commissions. But is it being done? To a certain extent, yes, but not to the extent that you and I can be happy about or proud about. One thing to be proud about, and in all this I keep on saying, and that is why there should be hope, that we are the only country which has commissions of this sort. I'm working with I'm working with Japan. I was working with Taiwan. I was working with Hong Kong. I was working with Bangladesh. I was working with Pakistan. Through a body about which you will come to know later. Tomorrow, I think, or day after. Which is the Asian network of NGOs working with national human rights institutions. When I started working with them, when I say People's Watch started working with them as a member, Pakistan did not have a human rights commission. Bangladesh did not have a human rights commission. Taiwan did not have a human rights commission. Hong Kong did not have a human rights commission. Japan did not have a human rights commission. Yes. Today, Pakistan has an independent commission. Bangladesh has an independent commission. Taiwan announced recently a commission. I've gone to Taiwan several times. Japan did not have a human rights commission even till today. At that time, Hong Kong did not have a Hong Kong court. So Japan alone remains as a country without a commission. So, there's a lot of pressure that you have to put on the government. You have to have laws. You have to have experts. There are lots of experts who come. We carry lots of experiences from different countries to put pressure. Myanmar did not have a commission. Myanmar now has I don't say that the commission there are models today, but they have got a commission today. But we have got not one. We have got 170. And imagine if these commissions performed as you and I want, where our protection of child rights will go, where our protection of women's rights will go, where our protection of scheduled caste rights will go, scheduled tribe rights will go, child rights would go, where our minority rights would go, where rights of persons with dignity, of persons with disability would go, etc., etc. That is important. The second is the recommendatory nature. Yes, the recommendations have to be effective. So before you do your recommendations cannot be recommendations which you write in your bathrooms. Your recommendations have to be well thought out, researched, analytical. You should have data supporting it. You should have had consultations with variety of experts. And then, all that comes into a recommendation. Then make it a way that the government doesn't wriggle out. Have consultations where High Court judges are also sitting. Then the judges themselves say, this woman's commission chairperson is a very serious person in Tamil Nadu. Whatever she says is serious. Then they take you seriously. When Mohinigiri spoke, she was taken seriously. When, what's her name? Purnima Advani spoke, seriously. So seriously that my office was raided. People's Watch office was raided. We were in 6 Vallabhai Road at that time. Vasanthi Devi was a chairperson. And Vasanthi Devi came and said, Henry, we should do some commission. We should work together. And you know how madam is. So we said, yes, madam. We started with her. We helped her. My colleague, Ozzy Fernandez, worked in Chennai. We worked for one public hearing in Virudhunagar on Dalit women, one on state women, attacks on state women in Tamil Nadu, attacks on young girl child in Chennai. 3 days. And madam doesn't do small things, she does big things. Now our commission here in Tamil Nadu, in Madurai, was state violence against Dalits, Dalit women. That is, policemen raping Dalit women, torturing Dalit women, killing Dalit women. Only when I say like this, you'll understand. State violence is torturing, raping, killing. Mind you, make the story short, she issued summons, as a result of which we had over 300 policemen who were summoned for about 30 cases or something. 300, including their SPs. And since there were 23 SPs who were physically present, an ADGP rank officer who was also a lady, very respectable lady officer who's not in service now, I don't get her name, she was also there. My city commissioner was one Vijay Kumar. I was sitting in the last row. All the case files were there. My people were helping the commission hearing. This Madam Purnima Advani suddenly had some doubt in a file. Where is Henry? Ask him to come. The policemen who did not know from whom, where these cases had come, then they realized, why is Henry? Oh, this case, correct. People's Watch took up this case. Once she did it, second time she did it, third time she did it, the ball was out. The cat was out of the box. Lunch break, everybody was going. This ADGP and my commissioner of police saying, so you are the man behind the show. I said, no, they just called me to do some documentation. They just said, okay, go. Believe me, friends, 3 days later, my office was raided. Not ordinarily raided, 75 persons. You go into our website, you will see People's Watch office raided. Just go there. You will see the rest of the story there. And why did they come? They were under the impression that one Raja Lakshmi, who was a robber, person involved in robbery cases, was being sheltered by me. And you know where they came to look? In the cupboards that I have below my seats in my office. They were looking there. Fully armed. Not one of them had the guts to come with their names. So this is the cost. When commissions can do this kind of work. The recommendations that came out of this have gone to the government on various issues. So if you do your work with good recommendations, those recommendations will definitely be taken by good government, good officers. Now, all IAS officers are not people without a backbone. Many of them are very, very nice people. They are wanting some opportunity where somebody, I mean, we cannot align with them openly because they are officers of the government. Some independence should be there. But if they are given good material, they know what to do with good material. And they will do it much better than what you and I can do. So this is how you are able to use these commissions as public spirited people and take it forward. And this is what educational institutions should be doing. Any questions?
I think we should wind up. Maybe there are a few questions we can answer later. Maybe you can answer later.
Very good. Friends, thank you for Rajavel for that. There are 2-3 things which need announcement. One is this is an appeal. This is a fervent appeal. I'm going to put the gallery down. I'm going to ask all of you, please, for once, agree with me. If you don't agree, if you all agree with me, put thumbs up. After I have told what it is. Don't put your thumbs up now. Rajavel, they can do that, no?
Yeah.
Friends, we have for the 25th, 26th, and 27th, we have got very powerful speakers. As I told you, one is from Harvard University. The other is a panel of Shanta, Shina, Sailesh Gandhi, and Vasudhi Devi. It might cross 5:30. Can you kindly, as a special favor, already plan to be free till 6 o'clock on 25th, 26th, and 27th? Doesn't mean that we will go more than 6. Doesn't mean that we will come anywhere near 6. But it will definitely cross 5:30. I hope you will all give me that approval because some of them are from abroad. They are from different time zones. Some people are talking to us from different New Zealand, one from Philippines, one from Malaysia. Therefore, I seek your approval to formally cross 5:30. Sometimes we are informally cross 5:30. I'm already crossing now. It's 5:39. Will you agree? I hope, and you will be there. Don't run away in the last. It will be not looking nice. Very good. I see hands. I think I see some hands. I see some people putting on their video and then showing their hands. I hope it is many people, not too many people. Then I'll have to tell them to finish in 10 minutes. If all of you don't put up your hands, I will tell them not to come. Many people don't have their thumbs up. Not many thumbs are up. Only some thumbs are up. The last row, many thumbs are not. Evangeline, Madam Evangeline, your thumb is not up. Madam Uma, your thumb is not up. Unfortunately, you put your name there. Datraya, your thumb is not up. So you're all opposing this, is it? I'm encouraged, Madam Evangeline. I'm encouraged. You put your name there, therefore you got caught. Very good. Thank you very much. Sandra from Kerala, you don't have your thumbs up? You're clapping also. Very good, very good, very good. Okay, more or less, I think you're all saying yes. This is an appeal. This is my twin brothers from Tamil Nadu, 07. You are still not opening your mouth anywhere. Sheikh Mohammed. Oh, lower hand. Oh, you put that one. Okay. Okay, not bad. Many people have already removed their signals, I think. Okay, so it is done. We will try our best to finish it early. That doesn't mean we will take time, but I'm happy that you have agreed to it. Second, we have to make new friends in life. Old friends will remain friends, but new friends will be new friends. Therefore, from tomorrow morning, we will have a change of groups. Today is your last day in your groups. I kindly request you to look forward to new friendships. Friendships where you are respected. Friendships where everybody respects you. new friendships. We need new friendships. Now, don't think people from North India will be pushed to sit and with some people from South India who don't know Hindi or things like that. No, not like that. That language groupings will continue, but you will be in different groups. You might have one or two of your old friends also, but not everybody will be old. There will be new people. And I hope, as we all understand, and I'm repeating it because I respect all of you, we will respect each individual and their individuality and their dignity in the groups. We have done it very well so far. We will continue to do it and demonstrate how good a participant we have been in this large gathering. So today is your farewell group meeting. So don't miss your farewell group meeting, 10-15 minutes, and then have your farewell party, online farewell party in your group. If you were in a regular training program, you would have gone to several groups by now. Here we are only pushing you into 2 groups. That is number 2, and I want your full support for that as well. The facilitators will be the same 15 facilitators, but you may not have the same facilitator. You will have a different facilitator. So you will also find, if you are bored up with some facilitator, then you have got a new facilitator. Both ways, right? It can be both ways. The facilitator might have had difficult participants. The other way around, this is a change. The third is you will have a group activity related to national and state human rights institutions. Very simple, but going into websites, which will reach you tomorrow morning. By this evening, Rajavel, kindly see that at least we use WeTransfer if possible to push out all those materials we have gathered on national human rights institutions. Some of them are very good. Open them and see it. And before you come tomorrow, the material that has been circulated for tomorrow on National Human Rights Institution, the PowerPoint by Dr. YSR Murthy, he has given a direction to us that all of you should read it because you will not use it in the class. Please read it. Yes, today, that is why there is no homework given to you today, because you'll have to prepare and read it to come ready for the classroom tomorrow morning. Thank you, friends. Sorry, it is 5:44 and many of you are still here. Thank you very much for waiting. Thank you for your cooperation. The next week ahead is a tough week, but I'm sure you're going to gain a lot, and go back as a strengthened human rights defender of this country, doing things together with all of us. We will feel strengthened to be with you. Thank you very much.